Hello and welcome to Sophie & Co. I'm Sophie Shevardnadze. Dramatic spikes in value have fueled interest in Bitcoin, the cyber currency phenomena. Investing a few dollars several years ago could have made you millions today. But there's trouble on the virtual market, so is it safe to invest your money now? Our guest today is one of Bitcoin's biggest entrepreneurs, the man known as Bitcoin Jesus, Roger Ver.
Bitcoin, the world's most popular virtual currency, is spawning a new breed of digital multimillionaires. But when Bitcoin's biggest exchange disappeared, millions of dollars of people's savings went missing. Can you put your trust in a virtual market? What happens if somebody hacks your digital money? And why are governments so eager to shut it down?
And here we are with Roger Ver, Bitcoin entrepreneur. Roger, it's really great to have you with us. He's joining us from Japan. Now, governments call Bitcoin a financial pyramid, but you call it the most important invention since the internet. Why?
Yeah, Bitcoin truly is one of the most important inventions ever in the entire history of the world. It's the first time in the entire history of the world that now anyone can send and receive any amount of money with anyone, anywhere else on the planet. And they don't need permission from a bank or a corporation or even governments for that matter. And you can send and receive any amount of money just like that for practically for free. And nothing like that has ever existed before in the entire history of the world. So it's really, really exciting to see this just blossoming and spreading to more and more people around the world.
But Bitcoin has been making the news lately because of Mt. Gox, one of the biggest and oldest Bitcoin exchanges that has virtually disappeared. The chief is nowhere to be found. The offices are empty. I mean, for many, it does look like a very definition of a financial pyramid in action. What happened there? Why did it happen? Why did it disappear?
Yeah, so we don't know all the details yet, but it's very, very important to distinguish Mt. Gox from Bitcoin. Mt. Gox is just one particular company that's using Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin itself. So if Hotmail disappeared tomorrow, we wouldn't blame email. We would just blame Hotmail and say we shouldn't use Hotmail anymore. We can use Gmail or Yahoo or any of the other email service providers. And it's the exact same way with Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox is having some problems, but that doesn't reflect on Bitcoin itself as a whole. So Bitcoin itself has no problem whatsoever and is still being used by millions of people around the world. I feel horrible for all the people that got caught up in the Mt. Gox mess, but that's Mt. Gox's problem, not Bitcoin's problem.
So where's the guarantee that what happened with Mt. Gox won't happen again?
There is no guarantee that that won't happen again, but if you hold your Bitcoins yourself, you can have the control in your own hands where you don't have to trust some other company that they won't get hacked or bad things won't happen. There's all sorts of open source software tools like blockchain.info is the one that I use myself and recommend. You hold your Bitcoins yourself. You don't have to ask permission from anybody else. You have all the information that's required to spend your Bitcoins without needing to trust or rely on anybody. And I think that's the real way to go. Is if you're going to be using Bitcoins, my advice to you is hold them yourself in your own Bitcoin wallet rather than trust them with somebody else.
But what do you mean when you say holding Bitcoins yourself? Didn't people lose money at the disappearance of Mt. Gox? Didn't they lose the Bitcoins?
They did, but that's because they were allowing Mt. Gox to hold their Bitcoins for them on their behalf. And while Mt. Gox is holding their Bitcoins for them, they have to trust that Mt. Gox isn't going to lose them. And in this case, Mt. Gox wound up, it appears to have lost everybody's Bitcoins. And that's a big problem. But all the people that were holding their Bitcoins themselves in their own wallet had no problem whatsoever, and they still have all of their Bitcoins. So I think the real lesson to be learned from the Mt. Gox incident is to hold your Bitcoins in your own wallet yourself and only send them to a Bitcoin exchange if you're actively going to be trading with them.
Well, like you said, there's no guarantee that what happened to Mt. Gox will happen again. So here's my question. Let's say if I lose my cash in real life, right, I can go to police. I can sue a bank, right? There's a higher instance that I can complain to. Bitcoin is not regulated by anybody or anything. What happens if you lose your Bitcoins? Where do they go? Could you ever get them back? Could you complain to someone about that?
To be honest, with your cash, I think if you go to the police, they're not particularly likely to help you. And it's the same
but
with
what
Bitcoin.
I'm saying, I'm saying theoretically, there's always a higher instance that you can complain to. In case of Bitcoin, because it's not regulated by anyone or anything, I'm just wondering, like, can I sue someone? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that Bitcoin is unregulated. There's all sorts of laws that are applying to Bitcoin currently as well. But look at the people that had money in the banks in Cyprus. All of a sudden, the government there changed the rules on them, and they lost a percentage of their bank accounts. And there's not really anybody that they can go to complain with either. With Bitcoin, if you're holding them in your own wallet, there's nobody that can affect those Bitcoins in your wallet. You have complete control over them, and that's a much, much, much better position to be in than if you're keeping your money in a traditional bank or financial system. Because if something happens there, yeah, you can complain about it, but in reality, you're probably not going to be able to have much effect.
Mm-hmm. Why is the number of Bitcoins limited to 21 million? Can that number ever grow?
That number cannot grow. It's hard-coded into the code itself, and that's one of the most attractive aspects of Bitcoin. With US dollars or euros or Japanese yen, the governments can print as many of them as they want at any time for any reason, and then that makes all the savings that the normal people have worth less. With Bitcoin, because that cannot happen, the price of Bitcoins in terms of dollars or euros or yen will have to constantly increase year after year as more and more people start using it as a currency. So for example, I got into Bitcoin a little over 3 years ago. When I first heard about Bitcoin, they were less than $1. Today they're around $600. And in the future, if they become really popular and used all over the world, like it looks like is going to happen, each single Bitcoin is going to have to be worth at least tens of thousands of dollars, if not, maybe even $100,000 or more for each one single Bitcoin that today is worth around $600. And we're really seeing lots and lots of merchants get on board with that. And Overstock.com is one of the largest shopping websites in the entire United States. They're accepting Bitcoin directly. The CEO has gone on record saying that they're not converting the Bitcoins into dollars, and they're planning to spend a portion of the Bitcoins they receive to pay their suppliers. With my previous business, I still pay suppliers in China all the time with Bitcoin, and it's just so much more convenient to send and receive money with Bitcoin than it is with any other payment system that's ever existed before in the history of the world, and nothing like that's existed. And the best way is for people to understand Bitcoin is to actually go and use it. So I would recommend people go to www.blockchain.info and make a free wallet. It doesn't cost anything. You don't even have to give your email address if you don't want to. And then you have a Bitcoin wallet that's 100% completely in your own control, and you can then send and receive money with anyone, anywhere else on the planet. And you don't have to ask permission from anybody. You don't have to sign any terms of service. It just works.
Roger, do you have any kind of other money on you that you ever use, like any hard currency, or you only use Bitcoins with everything?
Yeah, actually, in my computer bag sitting next to the set here, I have Japanese yen, I have US dollars, I have British pounds, I have Korean won, I have Chinese RMB, and I have all these stupid pieces of paper that I have to sort out every time I travel from one country to another. It's so incredibly inconvenient to keep track of which pieces of paper that people have been using for hundreds of years as money I have to use in the particular geographic area I'm in. With Bitcoin, I just pull out my cell phone, and it doesn't matter what country I'm in, it just works. So Bitcoins, from that perspective, are certainly much, much, much more convenient than the other types of pieces of paper I still have to carry around with me, and I look forward to the day I don't need to carry those pieces of paper around with me anymore.
But can I ask you something? Like, I'm trying to figure out the technicalities of using Bitcoins, like nowadays, and I'm not saying in 50, 60 years. What exactly can I buy with Bitcoins? I mean, can I travel with them? Can I pay for college? Go to brand name stores, for example, pay a mortgage? Because I'm thinking, like, if I want to become a Bitcoin millionaire, the first thing I want to do is, like, go on a shopping spree.
Sure. I think at this point a better question is, what can't you buy with Bitcoin? So for example, I just flew into Tokyo a couple of days ago from the US. I bought my plane ticket on cheapair.com with Bitcoin. When I was visiting the US, I paid for my hotel stay in Bitcoin. You can buy rides into outer space with Bitcoin. You can buy just about anything you can think of with Bitcoin at this point. So the real question is, what can't you buy with Bitcoin?
But so can you go to stores like, I don't know, brand name stores? Can you pay for college with Bitcoins? Is it something that's already in store?
Sure. Every university doesn't accept Bitcoin yet, but there's a number of colleges that already do. There's a whole bunch of physical real-world locations that you can spend Bitcoins at. There's a great website called coinmap.org, and you can see all sorts of locations near you that will allow you to spend Bitcoins in their physical shop. Bitcoin is primarily an online currency, so there's probably hundreds of thousands of websites around the world that accept Bitcoins directly at this point. So as far as online goods go, you can buy just about anything. And if there is something that you can't buy with Bitcoins directly, there's all sorts of Bitcoin exchanges that will let you exchange Bitcoins back into your local currency, and then you can use that to pay for whatever it is that you
That's
want.
my next question. How can Bitcoins be exchanged for a hard currency? How does that happen?
Yeah, the same way as if you had a gold coin or a bar of gold, you would find a gold exchanger and you would give them the gold and they would give you the local fiat currency. It's the same way with Bitcoin. There's another great website called bitcoincharts.com, and you can see a list of probably over 100 different Bitcoin exchanges around the world at this point that'll exchange your local fiat currency to or from Bitcoin. If you're in the US, there's a great company called Coinbase.com. You link your bank account to their website just like you would with your PayPal account, and they'll debit dollars from your account and give you Bitcoins, or you can send them Bitcoins and they'll deposit dollars right into your bank account. And they just charge a fee that's a small fraction of what PayPal would charge you. And it's a fantastic website and really convenient to use. But my advice to everybody is if you use that website to buy or sell Bitcoins, store the Bitcoins in a wallet in which you control the keys.
From what I understand, you can also create your own Bitcoins, right, through a process that's called mining. And that would imply a certain knowledge of maths or a technological knowledge. So is it a system limited to computer experts only?
Yeah, what I generally tell people in regards to Bitcoin mining is you can kind of think of it as the same way of as gold mining. Technically, you could probably go up in the mountains and dig around and dig some gold out of the mountains, but your time is probably better spent doing your regular job and then convert whatever sort of money you're using in your regular job into Bitcoins. Just as if you wanted gold, you would probably just buy it rather than go in the mountains and dig for it. But if you're inclined, there's all sorts of information on the internet, and you can read about all the specialized hardware that people are building to mine Bitcoins. One thing a lot of people don't realize about Bitcoin mining is in the next year, there'll be somewhere around $1 billion worth of Bitcoins created, which means that people will be willing to spend just under $1 billion to mine those Bitcoins. So the Bitcoin mining industry is about $1 billion a year industry at this point, and it's only going to grow from here.
So basically, it's kind of funny because it comes down to an industry of two kinds of people: the really smart ones who can mine their own Bitcoins, or the rich ones who can buy the Bitcoins, right?
There's lots of people that work for Bitcoins and get their salary paid in Bitcoin. There's more and more of that sort of thing growing all over the world, and I think in the near future we'll see lots and lots of people receiving their salary in Bitcoin. The company that I'm involved with the most heavily is called blockchain.info. Every single employee gets paid 100% in Bitcoin. We have no bank account. We don't have anything other than Bitcoins, and it works wonderfully. We pay all our vendors in Bitcoin. Everybody's happy to be running their life that way, and it's really, really convenient.
Roger, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with Roger Ver, a Bitcoin proponent and businessman, to talk about the dangers that investing in a cryptocurrency can bring. Stay tuned. We're back with Roger Ver, the cryptocurrency entrepreneur known as Bitcoin Jesus. How does that make you feel? Anyways, you've invested in 2011, like you mentioned in the beginning, when one Bitcoin was worth $1. How does one become a Bitcoin millionaire, and how quickly did that happen for you?
That's a little bit personal, I suppose, but even if you buy a decent amount of Bitcoins now, I think there's a real good chance that they'll continue to go up substantially from where they're at now, because as we're seeing, more and more websites all over the world are starting to use Bitcoin. More and more people are already using Bitcoin. For example, the website that I'm involved with, again, at the beginning of the year, we had just right around 1 million users exactly at January 1st. Now we have over 1.3 million users, and it's only been 2 months. So, and I think by the end of the year, there's a good chance we'll have somewhere around 10 million users. So the more people that use Bitcoins, because the supply is limited to 21 million and there can never be more than that, as more and more people start to use it, the price of Bitcoins in terms of dollars will have to go up. And in the future, if you buy some Bitcoins now, there's a real good chance that they'll be worth a lot more in the future. And I know personally with my Bitcoins, I want to hold on to as many of them as I possibly can, because I think the value will continue to go up. But that's not the real main reason to get involved with Bitcoin. Just as an average person, they're much, much easier to use if you want to send money to people that aren't standing right next to you. And it's cheaper and faster and easier than any other system that's ever been devised in the history of the world.
But also I'm thinking, can you become millionaire quicker investing in Bitcoins than a regular guy who is investing in bonds and stocks?
Yeah, my goal isn't to promote Bitcoin as an investment scheme, but if you ask me directly as that, yeah, I think I made a bet a little over 2 years ago that Bitcoin would outperform gold, silver, and the U.S. stock market by more than 100 times. And I bet $10,000 at the time I said that. I said that it would do that over the next 2 years. And in fact, it didn't do that over the next 2 years. It took 2 years and 2 months. So in 2 years and 2 months, I took the $10,000 that worth of Bitcoins that I bought at the time I made the bet, and 2 years and 2 months later, that $10,000 was worth over 1.1 million US dollars. So in 2 years, it went from $10,000 to over $1.1 million. And I donated all of those to the Foundation for Economic Education, which is exactly what the name says. It's a foundation that educates people on economics. And it's because of their books and articles that I read when I was younger that allowed me to understand just how amazing Bitcoin was going to be. And I've definitely been proved right at this point. It's gaining more and more popularity, and more people are starting to use it. And I think we'll see some similar increases to that over the next 2 years as well.
But Bitcoin's value jumps up and down so drastically in a space of a week. How can you trust something that is so unstable and volatile?
Yeah, it does jump around, and that's because the market cap is still so incredibly small. As Bitcoin becomes more and more popular and the market cap is larger, the stability of Bitcoin will increase.
So can you loan or borrow money within the Bitcoin system?
Sure, people borrow and loan money all the time with Bitcoin. There's all sorts of markets for that. There's all sorts of trading and things like that going on. With Bitcoin, it makes it incredibly easy to loan someone, $1 worth of Bitcoin or $1 million worth of Bitcoin to or from anywhere on the planet with people that trust each other. And there's all sorts of interesting technological things that people can do with Bitcoin called multi-signature transactions. So for example, if some Bitcoins are sent to a particular Bitcoin address, you can have it set up so that 3 separate people control that address, and any 2 of those 3 can spend the Bitcoin. So you can set up all sorts of escrow systems and all sorts of interesting things to make it much safer for people to use or loan or borrow Bitcoins.
So there is some kind of regulation within the system. It's not completely unregulated.
So Bitcoin itself is regulated by the laws of mathematics, and those are the same anywhere in the universe and cannot be changed. Men can go and pass whatever laws they want, but it doesn't change the laws of mathematics. So at the end of the day, politicians will pass whatever laws they want, but that won't change the way Bitcoin itself functions, and people will just choose whether or not they personally want to follow those rules or regulations with the Bitcoins that they're using.
But Bitcoin is a piece of computer code, like you said. It's regulated by laws of mathematics. Where does its market value come from?
Its market value comes from its utility. Because Bitcoin is so incredibly useful to use as money, people just spontaneously started using it that way. And as more and more people start using it that way, it has even more and more value because there's more people that you can trade with Bitcoin with. And because the supply is limited, anytime you have a demand for something with a scarce supply, the price is going to be set by supply and demand. And the demand has been increasing year after year, and the supply has been staying about the same. So the price has been increasing to accommodate that additional demand. And I think really clearly we're going to see that continue to happen over the next couple of years as well.
But it's still only a computer program, right? Bitcoin exchanges have been coming under massive cyber attacks from unknown sources. Who do you think is behind them?
I don't know. I don't have an opinion. People go and hack things and do bad things on the internet all the time. I'm sure there's lots of people that have various motivations for that. I'm not one of them, so I don't really have an opinion as to what they're doing. But I'm confident that lots of smart, good people out there will find ways to deal with these cyber attacks and cause it to not be a problem for normal people that just want to use the internet or just want to use Bitcoins.
But at this point, it's still a big danger, though, for those who think that Bitcoin is hacker-proof because it's so heavily encrypted.
Sure, Bitcoin is dangerous. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put your entire life savings into Bitcoin. But if you're careful about what you're doing and use strong passwords and use good, proper computer security, you can use Bitcoins very, very safely to send basically any amount of money anywhere in the world. So if you're careful with what you're doing, you can use Bitcoin safely. It's not ready for your grandmother to use yet, but lots and lots of really smart computer programmers are working on the software tools that eventually will make Bitcoin easy and safe enough for your grandmother to use.
But I guess with all the perks that Bitcoin brings, there is a side effect. The system clearly facilitates crime. You can buy drugs, arms, your payments will be untraceable, it's very accessible, it's quick. Doesn't it only seem obvious that somebody needs to control that part, at least?
Everything you just said applies equally to cash. So I don't see Bitcoin as being any more disruptive or destructive in that sense than cash. People use cash to buy drugs and guns and terrorism and whatever else you want. Yeah, some people will do some bad things with Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the world should be deprived from the ability to being able to send any amount of money to or from anyone, anywhere on the planet, almost for free. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing that's going to improve the lives of literally billions of people across the world. And just because some people might do some bad things isn't any sort of reason to try and delay or squash or hold back this wonderful invention that's going to improve the lives of just about everybody.
Well, all I'm asking is that if you come up with a virtual currency, government can't really do anything about that because it's not against the law. You're not breaking any law. But if this wonderful virtual currency facilitates crime, this is something that government can declare a war on Bitcoin for. Do you know what I mean? This could be a reason for a crackdown on Bitcoin.
At the end of the day, people wearing costumes and shiny badges can do whatever they want, but it doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean that they have the moral authority to do so. In the last century alone, governments rounded up more than 250 million innocent people and executed them. So at the end of the day, I'm not really particularly interested in what the politicians think, and that's one of the things that had me so excited about Bitcoin, is that it's technologically beyond the control of politicians. And all in all, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's going to lift so many people out of poverty all over the world. And if the politicians try and stop that, that's on them. That's them committing evil, trying to prevent people from improving their situation in the world. And I want no part of that whatsoever.
No, but all I'm saying, like, no one's doubting how wonderful Bitcoin is. I'm actually very excited to start using it myself. All I'm saying is that facilitation of the crime, which is obvious in case of Bitcoin, it could be a reason enough for the government to actually officially come after Bitcoin.
Yeah, maybe they will, but I disagree with their assessment that that's what they should do, and all the arguments that you previously gave apply equally to cash.
All right, so what does it mean when people say that Bitcoin payments are irreversible? Can you explain that?
It's actually very similar to cash. If I hand you, a $100 bill and it's in your hands, the only way for me to get it back is to ask you to send it back to me. And Bitcoin is the same way. If I send you some Bitcoins, the only way for me to get it back would be to ask you to send it back to me. And that's very different than credit cards or checks or bank wires, in which you can call up the credit card company, months and months later and say, send me my money back. I didn't buy that, or I changed my mind, or whatever reason. With Bitcoin, once you've sent the Bitcoins, that's it. The transaction's done. It's over.
Wouldn't that have consequences for business? Like, wouldn't it be easier for people to lie to other people they're making business with? Like, if the transaction is irreversible?
Luckily, we have all sorts of tools to deal with that sort of thing. So there's all sorts of online escrows. There's all sorts of, basically any time you're paying a company in which you trust. So let's take Amazon.com, for example. If you pay with a credit card, the credit card company is going to charge around a 3% fee. If you pay with Bitcoin, there's basically no fee. So Amazon has a 3% saving right there. I think I'll predict, actually, I'll go out here on camera. I'm going to predict that Amazon.com is going to be accepting Bitcoin by the end of this year. And I think not too long after that, all the different businesses that are accepting Bitcoin, I think they're going to have to start offering a discount for people that pay in Bitcoin over credit cards. So maybe they'll offer a 1% discount. All the people that pay with Bitcoin will get a 1% discount, and Amazon will save another 1 or 2% off of the credit card processing fees. And everybody's happy. And in regards to paying with Bitcoin and chargebacks, if you pay Amazon, you know that if there's a problem, they're going to do the right thing. They're going to give you your money back if there's an issue. They'll make a refund. They'll send you another product. They'll take care of it. And in the future, if you're paying for some business that you're not so sure about, if you trust or not, maybe you'll still want to use a credit card. I'm not predicting that credit cards are going to go away completely, but I am predicting that Bitcoin is going to become the predominant form of payment online.
But do you think Bitcoin will ever replace national currencies?
I'm hoping, and it depends on what sort of fiscal policy governments have. If governments are restrained in regards to their money printing and quantitative easing, then maybe there's not as much of a need for Bitcoin. But if governments continue to just print money like crazy and devaluing their currencies all around the world, people are figuring it out real quick. With Bitcoin, that sort of thing can't happen, and people are going to just flood to want to use Bitcoin instead of dollars or euros or yen.
All right, Roger, thank you very much for this very interesting insight. We're talking to Roger Ver, one of the biggest Bitcoin investors. We're talking about the future of Bitcoin and how more and more people will be using it, but we have to be smart about it and maybe not put all our eggs in one basket as of now. Thanks for that interview. That's it for this edition of Sophie & Co. We'll see you next time.